Okay, hey guys, this is the next of our defensive position specific videos after you watched our overview. We're going to talk about defensive backs just a little bit. This isn't an attempt to go over everything. This is just an attempt to give you enough to be able to be in position Saturday and feel confident about where you need to be on the field. So, defensive backs. If you remember from our introduction video, for this spring, we're going to put some special names on our corners and our halves. We're going to have field corners, known as FC, and field halves. We're also going to have boundary halves and boundary corners. Boundary halves, field halves, boundary corners, field corners, you line up according to the strength call, which we anticipate will be coming from the free safety. For example, the ball's on this hash, then that means the wide side is over here. That would be the defense's left. So the free safety is going to be calling out Louis, 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 which tells our field corner and our field half to get on the left side, and our boundary corner and our boundary half to get on the right side. Once you're there, what do we want you doing? You're going to have one of three assignments. You're either going to be asked to play man, you're going to be asked to play zone, or you're going to be asked to play press. Press could be man or zone, but typically we let it be man. Here's how I want you to start this. Corners and halves, I'm not real wild about having you line up inside leg up, backside leg back, or vice versa. I hear from defensive back coaches who give contradictory information, so kind of whatever you're comfortable with, unless Coach Marcel says he wants it a certain way. I'm even okay if you line up just in a 2-point stance. What you have to be able to do is know your basic rules if we're in man, and that are corners have the first person, eligible receiver from the sideline over. Halves would have the second. If we get into a situation where we're not balanced 2 by 2, but rather the offense put a third person over here, we might have the half travel over to be able to cover that. So we would have 3 over here and 1 here. We'll talk more about that later. Don't worry about it too much. But what I do need you to understand is this. If we're in man coverage, you line up facing the person that you're covering. If you are the field corner, you can line up on the inside shade of that person. The reason for that is if you're the field corner and there's so much space over here, it's not going to be very likely that a high school quarterback can throw the ball 20 yards on an out. So you line up on the inside shade to take away his inside routes and give them the outside route, because that's not going to be a good pass. Boundary corner, that doesn't apply to you, because you've got the short side of the field. So there's not as much territory for you to be able to cover. Halves, field half or boundary half. You need to line up probably about 2 yards off the ball line of scrimmage. And if this slot motions up to you and you've got them, you have got to backpedal before they can get close to you. If you're flat-footed and you wait till they're close to you to start backpedaling, it's too late. This kid has a running start and he's going to go past you. If any of you were with us for 2019, you might remember our first game where Max got caught with this all the time. So halves, you have to be able to backpedal as that slot waggles. Zone coverage. If we call a zone, and we probably won't on Saturday, that means one of these 2 players will be dropping back to be equal with the free safety. Typically what we do is we call cloud, where we would take the field corner, and they would drop back here, or we would take the boundary corner, and they would drop back here. So we have what's referred to in football as 3 deep. You can see 3 players, and we would leave the halves up here. If we do that, we typically have the corners drop early, so they've got plenty of time. And halves, at that point, you're playing about 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, and you're really playing like linebackers at that point. But this is what I really need you to understand. And this is something we might look at on Saturday. If we go into zone, you are no longer facing the man across from you. We want you angled so that you're facing the quarterback. That would look like this. If I was the field half and I was in man, the tip is what is looking at the person, the tip of this V. If I go into zone, I'm turned so that I'm looking at the quarterback. Here's the reason why. If we're in zone, we're anticipating that they're going to run the ball. So we need our halves actually looking at what's going on in the backfield. Because if it's a run play, they'll see it right away and they'll be able to come up and help support the end on the outside. If it's a pass play, they'll be able to see it right away and get into their area of zone. By the way, the areas of zone on something like this would look like this. Halves, you would be responsible for here. Corners, you would be responsible for here. Free safety, you would be responsible for here. Our linebackers should be dropping, so they're responsible here. And our Mike would drop, so they're responsible for there. That's just about everywhere covered. But remember, this is Canadian football. These fields are huge. So this is a lot of space for DBs to be responsible for. But remember the golden rule. The golden rule of being a DB is nobody's behind you. Keep everything in front, rally to the ball, swarm and punish. Don't give up the big play. I'll see everybody Saturday.